The rain-slicked asphalt shimmered under the weak glow of a flickering street lamp, casting long, distorted shadows across the deserted industrial district. A lone figure, his broad shoulders hunched slightly against the chill, walked with a quiet, measured pace, the rhythmic tap of his worn boots the only sound in the oppressive silence. Beside him, a three-legged pit bull, its coat a deep brindle, limped with an unwavering loyalty, its ears occasionally twitching at the distant wail of a siren. The air hung heavy with the metallic tang of recent rain and the faint, acrid smell of exhaust fumes, a stark contrast to the man's calm demeanor. He carried a simple paper bag, its contents rustling softly with each step, a mundane task in an otherwise foreboding landscape. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the screech of tires as a patrol car swerved sharply, cutting off the man's path. Its headlights, blindingly bright, pinned him against a grimy brick wall. Two figures emerged from the vehicle, their silhouettes imposing against the glare. "Hold it right there, pal," a gruff voice barked, laced with an unmistakable sneer. Officer Miller, a man whose uniform seemed perpetually too tight across his bulging stomach, stepped forward, his hand already resting on his holstered weapon. His partner, a younger, more nervous officer named Jenkins, lagged slightly behind. "What's the rush, old man? Out for a late-night stroll with your mutt?" Miller's eyes, narrowed and suspicious, raked over the man and his loyal three-legged companion. The dog let out a low, guttural growl, its hackles rising slightly, but the man merely tightened his grip on the paper bag, his expression unreadable. "Just heading home," the man replied, his voice a low rumble, devoid of any aggression. Miller scoffed, stepping closer, his face contorted into a sneer. "Home, huh? Looks more like you're casing the joint. This ain't exactly a dog-walking park, is it?" He gestured vaguely at the abandoned warehouses. A few car headlights, passing on a distant road, briefly illuminated the scene, revealing the man's powerful yet unassuming build. The tension in the air thickened, palpable and suffocating. Miller's partner, Jenkins, shifted uncomfortably, his gaze darting between his aggressive superior and the calm, silent man. "Got any ID, tough guy?" Miller demanded, his voice rising, clearly enjoying the power dynamic. The man slowly reached into his jacket pocket, his movements deliberate. "Easy now, don't make any sudden moves," Miller warned, his hand now fully on his pistol grip. He snatched the wallet from the man's hand, flipping it open with a theatrical flourish. His eyes scanned the contents, a smirk playing on his lips. "Mike Tyson, huh? Well, well, well. The mighty Mike Tyson, reduced to walking a three-legged stray in the dead of night. How the mighty have fallen." He chuckled, a harsh grating sound. Jenkins looked at the ID, a flicker of recognition, then confusion crossing his face. Miller, however, was too engrossed in his petty power play. He deliberately let the wallet slip from his fingers, watching as it landed in a puddle, the man's driver's license floating face up in the murky water. The three-legged dog whined softly, nudging its head against the man's leg, sensing the injustice. "Oops, Butterfingers," Miller sneered, kicking a small stone towards the wallet, splashing dirty water onto the man's trousers. "Maybe you should learn to hold onto your things, Mr. Tyson." He then snatched the paper bag from the man's hand, peering inside. "What's this? Groceries? For a champion like you?" Pathetic. With a contemptuous flick of his wrist, he tossed the bag, sending a carton of milk and a loaf of bread tumbling onto the wet ground. The milk carton bursting open, its white contents spreading across the dark asphalt. The man remained motionless, his eyes fixed on the spilled milk, a profound stillness about him that was almost unnerving. Jenkins winced, his conscience clearly pricked by Miller's unnecessary cruelty. "Just clean it up, Tyson, and maybe we'll let you off with a warning," Miller taunted, his voice dripping with condescension. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of the city and the soft lapping of the spilled milk. The man slowly lowered his gaze from the mess to Miller, a subtle shift in his posture, almost imperceptible. If you're watching this unfold and feeling that familiar knot of injustice in your stomach, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. We love hearing from our global community. The air grew colder, a shiver running down Jenkins' spine, though he couldn't pinpoint why. Miller, oblivious, puffed out his chest, enjoying his perceived victory. He took another step closer, invading the man's personal space. Before we reveal what the officers, especially Miller, were about to discover, and if you want to see more stories where the quietest person carries the greatest power, hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. The man's gaze, previously unreadable, now held a depth that seemed to pierce through Miller's bravado. It wasn't anger, not yet, but something far more ancient and formidable. He slowly bent down, not to pick up the spilled groceries, but to retrieve his wallet from the puddle. As his fingers closed around the damp leather, his sleeve rode up just enough to reveal a tattoo, partially obscured by the dim light, but unmistakably a fierce tribal pattern. Miller, still smirking, leaned in. "What's that? A little souvenir from your glory days? Doesn't look so tough now, does it?" But as the man straightened up, holding his wallet, his eyes met Miller's. For the first time, a flicker of genuine unease crossed Miller's face. It wasn't just the intensity of the gaze, it was the sheer unyielding calm behind it. The man then reached into a different pocket, pulling out a small folded piece of paper. He unfolded it deliberately, revealing a laminated card. He held it out to Miller, not offering it, but presenting it. Miller, still trying to maintain his arrogant facade, snatched it. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly as he read the words printed on the card. It was a special commendation, signed by the police chief himself, recognizing Mike Tyson's ongoing work with at-risk youth and his contributions to community safety initiatives. More importantly, it had a direct contact number for the chief and a personal note. "Any issues, call me directly. Arnold." The color drained from Miller's face, replaced by a sickly pallor. His jaw went slack. He looked from the card to the man, then back to the card, his bravado evaporating like mist in the morning sun. Jenkins, peering over Miller's shoulder, gasped softly as he recognized the chief's signature and the name Arnold. He knew the chief had a close, almost legendary friendship with a certain former bodybuilder and action star, a man of immense influence. The realization hit Miller like a physical blow. He wasn't just harassing a former boxing champion, he was harassing a personal friend of the police chief, a man who could end his career with a single phone call. The three-legged dog, sensing the shift in power, let out a soft, satisfied huff. Miller stammered, trying to regain some semblance of authority, but his voice cracked. This is just a formality, Mr. Tyson. We were just doing our job." His eyes darted nervously around, avoiding the man's steady gaze. The man, Mike Tyson, simply retrieved his card, tucking it back into his pocket. He then slowly bent down, not to clean the milk, but to gently stroke the head of his three-legged companion. "He's a good boy," Tyson said, his voice still calm, but with an underlying steel that made Miller flinch. "He doesn't deserve to be treated like this." Miller, now sweating despite the cold, fumbled for his radio. "Everything's fine here, dispatch. Just a routine check. No issues." He avoided eye contact with Jenkins, who was now looking at him with a mixture of disbelief and quiet satisfaction. Tyson slowly stood up, his gaze unwavering. "You spilled my milk," he stated, his voice flat. Miller's eyes widened further. I can get you another one, sir. I'll go to the convenience store right now," he blurted out, desperation creeping into his tone. Tyson shook his head slowly. "It's not about the milk, officer." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "It's about respect. Miller, completely deflated, could only nod mutely. The man who had been so calm, so seemingly vulnerable, now radiated an aura of quiet power that was far more intimidating than any overt aggression. Jenkins, finding his voice, stepped forward. "Officer Miller, perhaps we should assist Mr. Tyson with his groceries." He shot a pointed look at the spilled milk and bread. Miller, eager to salvage any shred of his career, practically scrambled to pick up the scattered items, his movements clumsy and frantic. He even tried to wipe the milk from the ground with his sleeve, a pathetic display. Tyson watched him, his expression still unreadable. The three-legged dog sat patiently by his side, occasionally glancing at Miller with an almost knowing look. "You know," Tyson began, his voice a low, thoughtful rumble, "Arnold always says, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. But sometimes," he added, his eyes meeting Miller's, "it's about knowing when not to hit at all." Miller swallowed hard, the implication clear. He had pushed too far, and only Tyson's restraint and the chief's friendship had saved him from a far worse outcome. The scene shifted from one of aggressive confrontation to a bizarre, almost comedic tableau of Miller trying to salvage spilled groceries while Tyson stood silently, his loyal three-legged dog at his side. Jenkins, meanwhile, was already on his phone, discreetly texting someone, likely reporting Miller's egregious behavior. The air, once thick with tension, now hummed with the quiet hum of a lesson being learned, albeit a very painful one for Officer Miller. He finally gathered the ruined items, his face a mask of humiliation. I'm truly sorry, Mr. Tyson," he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "It won't happen again." Tyson simply nodded, a subtle, almost imperceptible gesture. He then turned, his three-legged companion limping faithfully beside him, and continued his walk home, leaving Miller standing alone in the rain, clutching a bag of ruined groceries, his career hanging by a thread. The patrol car remained, its headlights still on, illuminating the lingering stain of spilled milk on the asphalt, a stark reminder of the night's events. Jenkins gave Miller a look of profound disappointment before getting back into the car, leaving Miller to contemplate the consequences of his actions. Respect isn't taken by force, it's earned by character. Silent doesn't mean powerless, and sometimes the quietest person carries the greatest power, a power rooted not in aggression, but in dignity and an unexpected network of formidable friends.